When jealousy meets envy, you get what you saw last night. Caitlin Clark being shunned out of the game, iced out of the game, ignored, teammates refusing to pass her the ball. We got Angel Reese taking it coast to coast, Caitlin Clark right next to her, refusing to give her the ball, going, pushing, giving it to Diarca Hamby, and the ball it's a turnover. What we saw yesterday was the definition of jealousy.
The forearm connected. The message was sent. Get the F out of my way. In that split second, the Team USA locker room didn't just crack, it shattered into a million pieces. This wasn't just a missed assignment or a bad shooting night. This was a deliberate, physical statement from Angel Reese to Caitlin Clark that the spotlight was officially closed for business. What happened behind those closed doors and on that hardwood wasn't basketball, it was a full-blown civil war. The tension had been simmering since the jump, but nobody expected it to turn this ugly, this fast. One player wanted to win, while the other seemingly wanted to be the only one seen winning.
Angel. We couldn't get through 2 games without this issue rearing its ugly head. Game 1, saw a lot of praise for you, actually. Game 1, I saw a lot of chatter. Whoa, did you see that pass from CC to Angel Reese? Whoa, this connection can work. Game 1, there was a lot of praise, not only for Caitlin Clark, mostly for Caitlin Clark, but for you too. So why do we come into Game 2 trying to ruin all of that? Why do we come into Game 2 seemingly with an agenda at hand? And that agenda was, damn.
The irony here is thick enough to choke on. For months, the media has tried to paint Caitlin Clark as a ball hog or a volume shooter who only cares about her own stats. They pushed that narrative into every headline they could find. But when you look at the actual film, she is the most unselfish player on the floor. She surrenders open looks to find teammates and literally just finished setting Reese up for success in the previous game. She is a facilitator by nature, yet she's the one being frozen out by players who seem to have bought into the manufactured drama created by talking heads. The narrative was flipped on its head in the worst way possible.
We got the ball going up. We got a rebound. Angel Reese grabs the board. Damn, says Caitlin, get the out my way. uses her right forearm to shield Caitlin from the ball like Caitlin's a defender, only to push the ball up herself. Caitlin says, oh, you got that? Oh, okay, my bad. My bad. I thought I was the point guard here, but you got that? Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, I didn't know. I thought we were on the same team, but you got that. You're right. You're the point forward. At least that's what your fans tell you.
When you absorb too much of that outside noise, it changes how you perform alongside your peers. You stop competing against the opponent and start competing against the person wearing the same jersey as you. That is exactly where the chemistry fractured in Game 2. Reese walked into that matchup with all the praise in the world after a solid Game 1. The connection looked promising, and even the biggest skeptics were starting to believe this duo could dominate the league. But instead of building on that foundation, something shifted. The need to reclaim the narrative took over, and the basketball suffered for it. The team's goals were abandoned.
PG, no, we refused to. We tried to be the PG, and we don't even hit Diarca Hamby's hands. Moving on. Next one. Like these are all bad. Angel Reese board. Give it to Caitlin Clark. Nope. Angel Reese board. You got Caitlin Clark right next to you. And what are we going to do instead? We're going to take matters into our own hands and give it the other way.
The internet doesn't miss a thing, and the reaction to these sequences was explosive. Analysts and fans alike were quick to point out that Reese was attempting to be a point forward on a team that already has one of the best facilitators in the history of the sport. You don't take the ball away from an elite floor general unless you're trying to prove you're better than them, but basketball has roles for a reason, and when you step outside of yours to chase a headline, you put the entire roster at risk. Against top-tier international competition, this kind of ball management is a one-way ticket to a blowout loss. The world was watching the train wreck. Coaches and and veteran commentators are already starting to voice their frustrations behind the scenes. They're calling on the staff to address this head-on before it turns into a permanent cancer within the team. This isn't a personal attack on Reese's talent. She is a legitimate force on the boards and a scoring threat in the paint. She brings massive value to any roster she's on. But she isn't the point guard. When she tries to play a role that doesn't belong to her, the offense becomes a clunky, dysfunctional mess that is painful to watch and even harder to coach. The lack of role clarity is tearing the squad apart, and everyone knows it. A specific photograph from the game has gone viral, and it captures the entire scandal in a single frame. It shows Reese physically using her arm to steer Clark away from the ball. The imagery is haunting for any fan of the sport. It's a literal representation of a player blocking her own teammate from contributing to the win. Whoever posted that photo probably didn't realize the firestorm they were about to ignite, but the fans saw the symbolism instantly. It was a visual confirmation of the icing out that everyone had been whispering about since the first quarter ended. That image will now exist on the internet forever as proof of the divide. Angel Reese got exactly what she wanted in that moment. She controlled the rock, she drove the pace, and she kept herself at the center of the action. But at what cost? The offense stalled, the flow vanished, and Team USA failed to cover the spread in a game they should have dominated. The acclaim and the hype from Game 1 were traded in for a messy, controversial discussion about ego and jealousy. You got the attention, Angel, but you lost the respect of those who value the game over the brand. Was that spotlight really worth the damage done to the team's cohesion? The glory was fleeting, but the consequences will be long-lasting. This isn't just about one bad game or a few missed passes. This is about the identity of Team USA as they head into serious competition. You cannot win at the highest level when your primary facilitator is being navigated around like an obstacle. Caitlin Clark isn't a player you restrict or manage. She is the player you build your entire system around. When she's the one calling the shots, everyone gets better. The posts get clean looks, the shooters get rhythm passes, and the tempo is fast and lethal. When you take the ball out of her hands, the light goes out for everyone. The coaching staff has a massive problem on their hands right now. The numbers don't lie, and neither does the film. The contrast between the offense with Clark at the helm and the offense without her is staggering. It's the difference between a finely tuned engine and a pile of spare parts. Any coaching staff with an ounce of credibility has to look at that Game 2 footage and make a move. You can't let individual hunger for fame outweigh the collective goal of winning gold. If this internal conflict isn't resolved now, it's going to explode on the world stage when the stakes are at their highest. The evidence is on the tape and the results are undeniable. A change has to happen before it is too late. There is a clear formula for defeat here, and Team USA is currently following it to the letter. Talent without organization is just expensive disorder. You can have all the stars in the world, but if they are fighting each other for the ball, they might as well be playing for the other team. One player on this roster has clearly decided that her personal priorities come first, and the results are right there for everyone to see. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires the kind of leadership that isn't afraid to hurt some feelings in the pursuit of greatness. The time for soft coaching is over. It's time to demand absolute accountability. It's time for the coaching staff to sit everyone down and clarify the roles once and for all. There can be no confusion about who runs the point and who secures the boards. If a player can't accept their role for the good of the squad, they shouldn't be on the floor. Currently, the only thing this team is dominating is the social media cycle, and unfortunately, you don't get a trophy for being the most talked about drama of the week. The focus needs to shift back to basketball before the reputation of the entire program is tarnished by this petty infighting. The path to victory is clear, but it requires everyone to stay in their lane. Angel Reese has a massive amount of potential, but potential without responsibility is just a highlight package that leads to a loss. She has the ability to be a cornerstone of this team, but only if she learns how to play as part of a unit. Sabotaging your own point guard to prove a point to the media is a losing strategy that will eventually alienate her from everyone in the locker room. The veterans are watching, the fans are watching, and the clock is ticking on how long this behavior will be tolerated before a change is forced. She has a choice to make, be a legend or be a distraction. The world is waiting for her final answer. The locker room brawl might not have involved fists, but the psychological warfare being waged is just as damaging. You can feel the tension through the screen. You can see it in the body language and the forced smiles. This is a team divided, and the fracture is getting wider with every game. If they don't find a way to bridge the gap between Clark and Reese, this season is going to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. We came for the basketball, but we're staying for the drama that seems to follow these two wherever they go. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, and nobody is backing down. The collision is coming soon. It's a tragedy to see such elite talent being wasted on such small-minded conflicts. We should be talking about scoring records and defensive stops, not forearm shoves and iced-out superstars. The fans deserve better, the sport deserves better, and Caitlin Clark certainly deserves better from her own teammates. She has done everything right, from her professional demeanor to her unselfish playstyle, yet she's being treated like an outsider on her own squad. The league needs to decide if they want to be a serious sports organization or a reality TV show. The integrity of the game is on the line, and the fans are losing patience. At the end of the day, winning is the only thing that truly silences the critics. If this team wants to be legendary, they have to put the egos aside and play the game the way it was meant to be played. The proof is on the film, the numbers are in the books, and the world is waiting to see what happens next. If you believe that the team should come before the individual and that Clark deserves a fair shot at leading this offense, then make your voice heard. Subscribe for more unfiltered analysis and drop your thoughts below, because this story is far from over. The real battle has only just begun. Who will you stand with? We aren't talking about a simple lack of communication here. We are talking about the definition of jealousy wearing a uniform. When two mindsets like this share the same floor, the friction becomes impossible to ignore for the fans and the coaching staff. You have one athlete playing to secure the victory and another playing to secure the camera's lens. Team USA gave us a masterclass in what envy looks like when it decides to sabotage its own success. The question isn't whether the chemistry is off, it's whether the damage is already permanent. This is the reality of a roster divided by ego and a locker room on the brink of a total collapse. Look at the footage and the truth becomes undeniable. The evidence is so blatant that pretending everything is fine is no longer an option for the league. This wasn't about poor conditioning or the speed of the international game. It was the inevitable consequence of one person deciding there wasn't enough room on the pedestal for everyone. Angel Reese is right in the eye of this hurricane, and the storm is swallowing her reputation whole. Before the excuses start flying, we have to look at what actually went down on that court. This isn't an attack on her character, it's a direct response to the visual proof of a teammate being treated like an enemy. It started with a single defensive board. Reese goes up, secures the ball, and does exactly what she's paid to do. But then the script flips into something dark. Caitlin Clark, the elite point guard whose entire career is built on orchestrating the break, is standing right there. She's not trailing the play or caught in traffic. She is perfectly positioned to ignite the offense. Instead of the outlet pass, she gets a forearm. Reese uses her right foot and her arm to physically shield her own teammate from the ball, as if Clark were a defender trying to strip her. It was a clear, silent message: I don't need you, and I don't want you involved in this play. Clark's reaction told the whole story without her saying a single word. She paused, adjusted her positioning, and essentially told Reese, "Oh, you got that? My bad. I thought I was the point guard here." It was the ultimate professional response to an unprofessional act. She didn't throw a tantrum or demand the rock. She simply adapted to the chaos unfolding in front of her. But the symbolism was deafening to everyone watching. That wasn't a basketball decision based on strategy or flow. That was Reese declaring that every single possession belonged to her and her alone, regardless of who was better equipped to handle the rock. The fallout was just beginning. The fallout of that one decision was immediate and disastrous for the team's momentum because Reese chose to play point forward instead of trusting the actual point guard. The entire transition game stalled. She tried to force a pass to Diarra Hamby that was awkward, late, and poorly aimed. The result wasn't a highlight reel. It was an offensive foul and a wasted possession. Don't blame Hamby for the turnover. She ran her lane perfectly. The failure started the moment Reese decided that her individual spotlight was more important than a clean entry pass and 2 easy points for the squad. It was a textbook example of how to kill a game's rhythm. If that ball is in Caitlin Clark's hands, that play ends in a bucket every single time. Anyone who has watched 5 minutes of her film knows that her passes arrive before the defense can even think about rotating. They are crisp, they are timely, and they make everyone around her look like an all-star. But instead of a high-speed offense, we got a disorganized mess because someone wanted to prove a point. 2 straightforward points vanished into thin air because of a personal agenda. This is how games are lost, and this is how locker rooms begin to rot from the inside out. The dysfunction was on full display, and there was no hiding from the cameras. You could try to excuse the first incident as a heat-of-the-moment reflex. Maybe she just didn't see her, but then it happened again, and then a third time. It became a recurring theme that revealed far more about her intentions than any post-game interview ever could. Reese would grab the board, see Clark standing in the clear, and deliberately choose the more difficult, more dangerous path just to keep the ball in her hands. At a certain point, a mistake stops being an accident and starts being a strategy. That strategy was clearly designed to minimize Clark's impact on the game, no matter the cost to the final score or the team's chemistry.